So as you can see, I'm all set up. You can see some of my amps at least, and we'll talk about more. So you'll be able to see more of them as we discuss them. Promise, last time I moved the camera. All right, so there's a few of you already in the room. Let me see if I can see the chat. And there you go. Hey Ray, what's up? So I wanted to show you the amps, so I set up my iPad. I don't know how much of a delay there is. And I just want to tell you that, first of all, thank you so much for your support. I've been receiving donations from you guys, which is incredible, because it just makes me feel that what we're doing here, especially with the live masterclasses, is useful to you and you're learning. And so I've ordered a few things to make these things better, and I got some of this stuff already in here to improve the sound of the microphone, and there's more stuff coming, and so hopefully I'll be able to implement it. But in the meantime, I think it's working quite well. And so as you know, on Saturday there will be a live masterclass on guitar. So this is a bit extra because a few of you saw the video about my guitars and wanted to do it again for the amps, and so here we are. And I'm just gonna wait a little bit to see if more people come in, because I know some of you requested this video. I don't want to get started without you. So just a little bit of a housekeeping. We are doing the live masterclass on Saturday. It's gonna be on a great topic. Okay, I'll give it away. I was gonna do it tomorrow, but it's gonna be on the cage system of guitar scales. And as you know, we talked when we did the masterclass on guitar scales and how to learn them. We said that the cage system was a great first point of entry to scales. And so I'm gonna go into a lot more detail about the cage system, give you a few tips, show you how it works, and even give a few tricks that I use to help people memorize them and actually make them musical. All right, so we're gonna do that on Saturday. But today, in continuation of the video on my guitars, I'm gonna do the amp thing. And before we begin, as always, I won't insult your intelligence by saying that you don't need all these amps. I just have them because, you know, I need them. It's true, amps are fun, and I discovered that I really enjoy amplifiers and how they sound and the different colors they have. But you know, I don't want to say that, but it's true that you don't need all these amps. As some of you know, I made whole records with one amplifier. Power Fantastic was done with one Angle amp and one guitar and one amp simulator, my Palmer. And then other records were a bit more complicated, but even Feel the Sky was made with 1 or 2 amps. And you know, out of the record came out a few songs that are like one, for example, that's, you know, it's maybe my most known song. So you don't have to worry too much about what you got and what you don't. But maybe this will help you out. You know, talking about amps is fun, and I see these videos, not the live master classes, but these videos we do here, just like people hanging out talking about gear. All right, so if you want to know more about any amps, maybe you were thinking of buying one of these, just, you know, ask questions and we'll get to it. All right. So how do I know who's in here? Because I wanted to wait for the people who requested the video, but maybe I'll just start and that's it, and then we'll see how it goes. Let me just start it on the computer as well, so maybe I can follow along a bit better. And we're gonna get started. Okay, here it is. Cool. All right. So now I can watch you guys on both screens. Okay, so let's start with the hello Indrajit. Oh, thank you very much for the donation again. You are great. Thanks a lot. And this video is for you. You're there. This video is for you because I know you were quite curious about my amp. So anyway, let's get started, all right? Because people watching this later will be like, get to it. So let's start from that one over there. That's my vaporizer. And the reason I have it is just that I found it for nothing on a used gear service here in Barcelona, and I just bought it. I just went to this guy's house and bought it because it's a strange amp. It's a Fender amp, but it doesn't really sound like a Fender. And I've been waiting to get a deluxe reverb for a long time, and I'm gonna get it eventually. And I didn't want to get another similar thing, and so this amp is really cool, and it sounds really weird. But the good thing about these amps is that I'm using my UAD aux. We'll talk about it. I've discussed it before, but I'll talk about it a bit more later. And so I can use this amp and mix it with different cabinets, and so I can get some really cool sounds out of it. And also, it doesn't quite like guitar pedals. It's not like a big friend to the pedals. And the cool thing about it is that you put pedals in front of it, and it doesn't like them, you know, and you just force the pedals into it, and you get some really strange sounds, like a fuzz pedal into that. It's crazy, crazy sound. And so I've already recorded a few, and I think I'm going to use them. I write them down in this little, in my little new songs book. You see here, I write new songs here, and I write down gear combinations and what guitar I want to use with what amp. So it's all here, and I have a couple of fuzz pedals that work badly with it, but I like the sound. It's really unpredictable distortion, so I'm going to use it. By the way, any amp you want to hear, except for that one, because I don't have enough wires yet, I'll show you how I manage all these amps and how I get them into the sound card. But any amps you want to hear, let me know, and I'll warm them up, and then we can hear them through the aux, and I can show them to you with various speakers and different cabinets too. So it's pretty fun. So anything you want to hear, let me know. I thought about playing each one of them, and it might be a bit too long, so just let me know what you guys want to hear. All right, so that's a Fender Vaporizer, and if you find it for cheap, get it. Otherwise, you know, there's better things out there, really, to be honest. But I like the color. You know, it's a weird shape too. I don't know. All right, so oh, Ray, did you use the direct out on any of your Marshalls? No, I don't. Although I did use my JVM410H. When I recorded Feel the Sky, I had a couple of problems with some guitar tracks that I had recorded with a microphone. At the time I had the 410, and I used mainly my Palmer cabinet. It's a Palmer with the vintage 30s, the anniversary ones. Really, really great cabinet. The guys made it for me. And I had just a 57 in front of the cabinet, and I recorded a lot of Feel the Sky with it. But when it came time to edit the solos, I mean edit the melodies, I heard some strange add effects, and I don't know what happened. Maybe something moved or something was too hot. And so for a couple of solos on Feel the Sky, I did use the direct out, but usually I don't. Usually I either put them in the other room and mic them up, or I use, now that I have the aux, I use the Universal Audio aux. Otherwise I also have a Palmer speaker simulator, and I used to have a transducer speaker simulator, which is a bit different, and I got rid of it when I got the aux because I don't need as many. Okay, cool. So what else? Okay, let's get to the Marshalls, right? I think you want to see the Marshalls. I have 4 Marshalls. Actually, I have one of them is not here. The 410H that I used on Feel the Sky and also other records is not here right now. But this is a JCM800. This is a reissue. It's a great sounding amp. I got it, you know, quite cheaply, and it was in perfect condition. So I use that a lot. It's this has been used on Mystic Electric quite a bit. A lot of the rhythm tracks where the distortion, but you know, not over the top, because a lot of people think the JCM800s are like the kings of distortion, but really they're quite low distortion if you what you're thinking about is the classic Marshall high gain. Because you know, originally Marshalls were not really high gain, no amps were, and then the Plexis came along, and then the JCM800 was kind of an evolution of the Plexis with more gain. But you know, in the 80s, a lot of people, especially in LA, they were always modifying them by adding another stage and a master volume, because these amps you have to crank them up, and well, this one, you know, depending on the model, but so they were usually modified to get more gain out of them. And that was something that Marshall had in mind when they went on to the JCM900, which was really criticized when it came out. But then, you know, it's not a bad amp. I don't know if any of you have a 900. A lot of people bought them because they were cheaper, you know, secondhand. Not a lot of people wanted them. And then they went along to the JCM2000, which there's one there, and we'll get into them, you know. But this 800, the advantage is that it has an FX loop, so you can hook up your pedals, because I always use my delay chorus, even often, not always, I always use the octave pedals, you know, to give me an octave up or down or both. I use them in the loop. I find them to sound a lot clearer. And I use them, for example, live when I have these big choruses, and in the record, you know, there's like a lot of guitars. So sometimes I just step on that pedal and it gives me the octave up and down. Because my setup is very simple live. I just have an amp, the guitar, and usually 5 or 6 pedals. Is not. I don't like having a lot of stuff. I don't try to recreate the sound of the album in the concerts. I don't care. And if I can, I usually go through a concert with one guitar. I always have more than one with me, but usually they stay in tune great. So I usually have either my black or my white Parkers, and that's all I use throughout the whole concert. Okay, so That's the advantage of the JCM800. Again, if you want to hear any of these amps, let me know. And under it, there's a JCM2000. Now, the 2000 was the evolution of the 900 series, which also came after the 800. I skipped the 900. I was looking for one, but then eventually I figured, you know, I can get close to it with these two. And the 2000 came in two types. One was the dual super lead, and the other one was the triple super lead. And the difference was that technically they were supposed to be the same for the first two channels, and the third one was a bit different. But I tried a bunch of them, like a lot of them. I tried a lot of TSLs and DSLs, and I always found that the DSL sounds better to me. Still a bit mid-rangey, but I can manage that. But the TSL sounded a bit overly aggressive on the mid highs, and it was a bit too compressed. I don't know. I was never a fan of the TSL, but the DSL was always an amp that I really wanted to get my hands on. Also because it's a very simple amplifier. If you open it, I have the board in the other room. I could have maybe later I get it. It's a simple amplifier, and they used to have a few problems. So I bought this secondhand for really nothing, for very little money. Bought it from a second-hand store that, not a music store, like they sold everything, like webcams and amps and I don't know, vacuum cleaners. You know, they clean everything. And so I bought it online for really close to nothing. Got it here, opened it up, and it had a big blob of, because the first thing you do when you buy an amp is you open it up, and it had this big blob of hot glue inside the amp, holding together a modification that they did to the circuit because it had a bias drift problem. Now these amps, a lot of them had a problem where you bias the tubes, and then I won't get into the details, but basically the bias, you know, there's a drip on the circuit, and so the bias moves around a lot, so that's really bad for your tubes, and also it can be very bad for transformers, and it can blow stuff up. And so people were trying to fix it in many ways, and this guy did it with a shit job. It was terrible. And so, you know, I got in touch with them, with the sellers, and I got it for even cheaper. And I said, I'll fix it if you give me part of the money back. So I got it for almost nothing. And then I went and I bought an actual board, a new board, installed it. So now it works great, and hopefully it's safe from it won't have any issues, at least for many, many years. And it's a great amp, and the reason is that it has two channels, right? So it has a clean channel that goes into crunch, and those are really, really good sounding channels. Actually, let me play it for you. It's number 4. Later I'll show you what I do here. One second. In a little while I'll show you how I have it set up so that I can play more amps without unplugging everything. All right. So let's see. Again, if you want to hear anything, you just let me know. Now, I don't know what settings I have them on because it's been a while. I've been using other amps lately, but okay, while I warm it up, I'll keep talking about it. So this amp hasn't been used on a record yet because it was broken when I recorded Mystic Electric. But it has a clean channel which sounds actually pretty good, and the crunch channel is great. But then the problem is with a lot of JCM2000, when you switch to the distortion channel, you get a thin sound. It's pretty thin, and it only goes away when you push it a lot louder than normal use, even on stage. So you can modify. You can clip capacitor. You take it out of the circuit, and it gets a bit better. Then there's people modifying it. I haven't gotten to it, but you know, you can add a choke. You can do all kinds of stuff. And this amp is great because I used it for. Did I play this live? I might have done a little something here. And so I basically have it set up with a clean channel. It's on the crunch mode, and I use the guitar volume to lower it a little bit so that I get a cleanish sound. Then I can step on it, you know, with the guitar volume and get some crunch, and then I can either go to the distortion channel, to the crunch channel, or I can use a tube screamer, and this gives me pretty much everything I need. It's maybe falls a little bit short, you know, when you play a lot, like a whole concert, and then you get a bit tired. And you need a little extra saturation to get through the gig, and sometimes I'm missing that last final push. But otherwise, it's you know, it works. It works for that. So let me see if I can play a little something for you. Here's a guitar pick. Okay, so it should be warmed up. Have to be careful with this microphone. All right, let me see. Can you hear it? Let me know if it's too loud. So this is the clean channel. So you see it sounds really good. It kind of loses something when I go to the distortion. But let me put it through a different cabinet, okay? Because I'm going through the aux here. So let's try with the greenback. Okay, so you see it's make rid of the delay. Sorry. Okay. And now check out the distortion. I'm sure there's a more ergonomic way to do this. Okay, this is the crunch channel. This is what I usually have it on. See, it sounds really good. When you get to the lead channel, it just loses a little bit of body. It gets a bit thin. But you know, you can always put a tube screamer or some kind of pedal like that in front of it, and then you get some really cool sounds. So let me show it to you with a creamback sound. It's a bit different. It's a bit more bright. And I find the aux here to be quite faithful to what the actual cabinets sound like, because I have a few cabinets and I compare them and they sound almost identical. So this is the crunch channel, right? So this is what I would do. Lower the volume. So I'm like at the edge of breakup. I can get breakup by really hitting the strings. And this is a telly. I don't know why I'm using this. I get a Parker later. But see, I'm getting a little bit of crunch, but if I bring up the volume, I can use this for rhythm. And then I can step on the pedal and get more, the final step for leads and melodies. Let me show you I'm going to show you the lead channel, right? I think this is where it kind of loses a little bit of greatness. And keep in mind that this has been modified. I clipped the capacitor on this, so it is a little bit better than what you'll find in a stock one, okay? Let's see. And this is the lead channel. The first lead channel, because it has two levels. There's the normal lead and the ultra lead. This is the normal one. Okay, wait, it's a bit low. There you go. So it sounds good. It's just a bit honky. I don't know if you can hear it. It has a little bit of honk, and usually if I use this channel, I might dial it down a little bit. You know, it really depends on what you're doing. Live, it works. You know, in the studio, I find it a bit too mid-rangey, but you know, it's a great amp. The reason I like it is that it's easy. It's an easy amp to carry around, is because it's sturdy. If you find one without the bias drift, and then you know, people can't really screw it up for you. If you take one of these, people start moving knobs, you're screwed, right? But that one is like one EQ shared by both channels. It's a good amp to just take out live and play it. All right, let me see the questions. Your amps are better organized than mine. All right, yeah. Well, as you see, I'm sure there's a better, a smarter way to make this video than getting up all the time, but I couldn't figure it out in time to make it. Hi again. Some reason I don't get a notification when this is live. Hello. Well, I don't know what's going on. You know, a few people have told me that. Have you hit the bell thing? I don't know. Maybe it's because I haven't posted in a long time on this channel, so we're reviving it. And I warn you, there's a lot of videos coming up. So hopefully we'll get better. You know, when you start watching them and more people get to it, you know, maybe it will notify more people. I don't know really how it works with YouTube. I'm trying to learn. But thanks for being here. Sounds good through my phone. Okay, great. I have a JCM DK Wilson. Hello, man. How are you? I think you're new here, maybe? Welcome. I have a JCM2000 50 watt, had a local hand wire amp maker who's also an awesome guitarist. Check it out. He loves it as much as I do. Got it for $275. Wow, that's a great buy. That's pretty much what I got it for. And then I changed the board. So I basically got a new one. And well, great deal, man. I think, do you use it with a OD pedal? Do you use anything with it? Or have you modified it? Or using it stock? Let me know. I love these little amps. I think that these DSLs are great, and there's so many of them out there. A lot of people bought them, then maybe something better for them came out. So you can find them pretty cheap in the used market. So, you know, if you find one cheap, get it. But if you don't know what you're doing, get it checked out by somebody else. Because amps are a bit dangerous. You know, there's like 500 volts in there. That is one nice guitar. Yes, I hit all on the bell as well. Okay. Thanks for going live. Love your guitar playing. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, well, this is a little bit of an extra thing. I wasn't planning on doing the Thursday thing anymore, the live thing, because eventually I won't be able to once this coronavirus thing goes away. But Saturdays at 6:30, I'll be here every week. Okay, so I'll give you more tips. There's a really cool video coming up in a couple of days. So, I think there was a question somewhere. Okay, yeah. Oh, this guitar. This guitar is a GNL Tribute, which is you know, kind of the cheaper version, but it sounds great. I use it on many records, and you can check it out in the other video we did on my guitars, and I go into a little bit of detail. Okay, actually, talking about guitars, let me switch to one of the Parkers so you can get a better feel for what I'm actually using them, especially live. You know, with the amps, you get a more it's closer to what I'm actually using them for when I'm playing live. And then in the studio, of course, I change guitars all the time. Let me unplug this really quick. Let me just switch guitars. Okay, I'm back. Hope you can still hear me. Every time I touch anything, the microphone and stuff, I'm scared that I'll ruin everything. But so yeah, that was the JCM2000. Okay. I use this stock with a Crybaby 535Q. That's the one I use. I have a lot of wah pedals, but that's the one. The 535Q is the wah pedal for me. I'm glad you find it. And a chorus ensemble, great. Mainly, that's it. Yeah. Well, you know, it's that's all you need. I also use delays in the loop, but yeah. Anyway, maybe we should keep going with the Marshalls again. Please just ask, and I'll plug them in for you. No problem at all. I think maybe we have to plug in the Plexi, right? Let me just switch here. And I have to plug it into the speaker. Again, I'll show you how I'm. All right, everyone. I have no idea what's going on. Sorry about that. YouTube is working against me lately, but I'm sorry. Are you still here? I hope you guys are. I see there's only 3 of you now. I don't know what's happening. Sometimes it just, you know, it works like 9 times out of 10. All right. Sorry about that. I don't know where I was at when it stopped working, but maybe I was talking about the Plexi. All right. Okay, I see you guys are here. I'm sorry about that. I have no idea what's going on. I have all my internet is working great. Tested it before the stream, Anyway, all is good if it's working. So this is a reissue of the 1987X, and the 1987 is not the year that it was first released. It's actually just the name of the model. And this is a Plexi, and it's called Plexi because of this plexiglass here faceplate. Nothing else. It's really simple. And if you guys are having problem hearing me, please let me know. And it's a great amp. It sounds amazing. The only problem with this is you have to put it really loud, and that's why the JCM2000 and the following amps came out as an evolution of this, because people were having trouble, because you can go even on a big stage, you put it past 4 or 5 and it's so loud you will bleed through your ears. And but in the studio it works great, and I have it set up again now through the aux. But my favorite cabinet with this is probably the Celestions, you know, the 25, the greenbacks, and that's what I'm gonna play it through. Okay, let's see if I can get sound. Yeah. I know what you're thinking. It does sound incredible. And the reason is that it's just a very basic amp. It has a very simple structure and a very simple circuit. And this guitar amp has been used on Mystic Electric quite a bit. And I love it for a lot of the melodies, because you can get really present, you know, you can get the sound right there, like to sit right between your eyes. And at the same time, it has a depth, because sometimes when you try to get a guitar out there, you know, in the middle of the song and of the stereo field and also of the frequency field, the risk is that you need to emphasize the higher frequencies a lot more than usual, and that kind of creates a thin sound, because you kind of have to lose those bottom notes. But this one, you can get now. I'm sure this microphone is not doing it justice, and we'll have okay, I'm gonna switch guitars again because of the noise, but we'll have a better setup for the, I don't know when, but as soon as I get all the gear that I ordered, you know, you'll be able to hear it through the sound card, and you know, you will use it more. But it has this very organic sound and deep sound. It's very deep, but at the same time it's very personal, so you can have it really sitting right there in front of you. And it's a great sounding amp. I used it a lot. Now the problem with this amp, for if you whatever you know, depending on what you're playing, is that it is lacking a little bit in distortion. So you can jumper it, you can do all kinds of stuff, but really, first of all, you have to play it loud, because it really blossoms when you play it loud. If you start very low with volume, it sounds very thin, and then it goes like, boop, you know, you pass 5 or 6. Maybe I can show it to you. Let's see. Let me try this. Raise the volume a bit. Okay, I'm gonna lower the volume. You hear that? So now it sounds a lot thinner, right? Check this out. There. Now I lower it again. See that? It gets really thin when you bring it down. The problem is this doesn't have a master volume. This is all you get. So if you want distortion and you want some good sound, you have to bring the volume up. And as I was saying, it's so loud you will go deaf, right? So a lot of people were having problem with these amps, and they had secondhand, not secondhand, but you know, off-market master volumes kits, and you installed, you know, but it's a really classic amplifier, so I didn't want to touch it. Gratefully, it works great with the aux or any speaker simulator, because then you can push it and it will sound great. But a lot of speaker simulators don't quite work. I don't know why. I tried a lot of them and they don't quite gel with this amp. I don't know why. It kind of loses its sound. And so I found that with the aux it works great. So that's all I'm using it with. and I usually use this cabinet here, the greenbacks, but I also sometimes use the greenbacks and also the GB30s, which are the 30 watts. And it has a very different sound with those. Now to push it a little bit, I like to use either I use an Electro Harmonics version of the Tube Screamer, and maybe we'll do one of these videos about pedals. What do you think? Maybe we should do something like that. Or maybe I sometimes use, I like to use the Soul Food, which is kind of a clone of the Clone, and it works great. But really, if I want more distortion, I probably don't use this amp. You know, I use this for what it does great, which is this kind of sound. And also it sounds incredible when you lower the gain and you play, you know, you keep the gain up on the amp, but you lower the volume of the guitar. And you can get amazing sound. Let me see if I can do something like that. So now I'm halfway on the guitar. It's incredible. If you could hear it. Like I'm hearing here. And again, I'm working on it. Soon you'll be able to hear it in beautiful, glorious sound. But now if I switch the cabinet, you can get a bit more of a rock, modern thing, like maybe a Randy Rhoads kind of. So it has quite a bit more bite. All the way up. Here's some volume for you. See, if you want a lot of distortion, it's lacking a little bit. All right. So that's my Plexi, and I'm gonna switch guitars because this one is making noises. But hopefully you could hear it. And I'm gonna get to the question right now. Hold on. Put this back here. Yeah. So sorry for jumping around all the time. It's just that. I don't know how to make a video like this differently because I have to get up all the time and fix the amps. So, okay, play the 2000 through a Marshall 412 with. Oh yeah, that's what. Yeah, the JCM I usually use it with 75s, with 75s or creambacks. That's right. That's right. Or even the regular G12, the T's, the 12 T's. They work great. You know, I don't mind the 75 watts. Ever try an attenuator with the Plexi? Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, the aux works like that. I'm going to show you how I have it set up. But once he gets out of the aux, it can become attenuated and back into the speaker, and it sounds great. But at that point, I rather just probably use the speaker on the aux. But I have tried. I mic'd it up. I made some profiles on my Kemper, which we'll get to later, and yeah, it sounds great. It sounds great both ways. It's, you know, it's a great sounding amp. And great with this pickup and lower volume. Clean sound by just some people complain that this amp doesn't have clean sounds. You just have to lower the volume on the guitar. It's as simple. Yeah, very sensitive too, as you can hear all the noise on the pods. A lot of other amps you don't hear it, but it's a very sensitive amp, and yeah, I love it. One of my favorite amps. Ever try? Okay, yeah. So should we move on? This one here is the JVM410, and this is the JS version. I had the regular one, and the regular one was great because I was using it for a lot of things. Actually, almost all of Feel the Sky was done with that because it has 4 channels, and for each channel there's 3 different stages or 3 different types. So there's green, amber, and red, right? So you get this. Basically it's 12 channels, but on the JVM410 I noticed that I was only using a few of them, maybe 3, and then when the JS came out, I talked to a few friends, you know, recording engineers, and they said how great it was, and I said, well, I'm not really that big. I wasn't that much into signature gear, you know, this is a Satriani model, and I said, well, I don't know. But eventually I was with my band and we played, and I always was switching between my 800, and then I was like, maybe I should use the Plexi for this. I wish I had an amp, at least for live, that can give me all these sounds. You know, hopefully I can get something that I can take out with me, and when I play, I can go through my 3 or 4 sounds that I would need through a set. And so I checked it out, loved it. I think it sounded a lot better than the regular 410, and so I got one. And it served me very well for recording, and it served me very well live, even though a couple of times it died on me on stage. And I was happy that I had my Kemper with me, so I owe my Kemper a couple of shows, maybe 3. And then I think it was fixed because eventually we changed some parts, and now it works great. And I use it in the studio mainly. I'm still a bit wary of taking it out live because of what happened, but eventually, you know, I will. And this works great with the standard Marshall cabinets. This is a 412, the 12T. It's, you know, the 75 watts, and it's the most common cabinet. So sometimes maybe you could play at a place, you know, a bit out of reach, and you don't want to carry everything with you. Maybe you're you know, there's not enough room in the transport. And usually, if you're sharing the stage with another band, you know, because usually if it's a small festival, if it's a normal show, there's other people there, or maybe there's a rental company, and they always have these speaker cabinets. It's almost impossible not to get them. If you want, you know, greenbacks, sometimes they don't have the cabinet with the greenbacks, or maybe they just have a 212. And so the great thing about this amp, and it was very smart on Joe's part, he designed it with the guys at Marshall based on, I mean, to work with this cabinet. So that was very smart. And I don't know if you guys want to hear it, but you know, it's pretty cool. It has, let me just warm it up. It has a clean channel that kind of reminds me a bit of some Fender sounds, and maybe then it goes into the earlier Marshalls, like a JTM and stuff like that. And then it goes into 800 territory, even though it's not the same as a real 800. And then it has 2 channels that are actually the same, because the old 410 had 2 different channels. They were different. But this one has 2 of the same channel, and then you can just set them a bit differently, or maybe have different volumes for each, which is very useful, because I do that when I play live. Sometimes I don't want a lot of distortion, so maybe the 3rd channel is like at the edge of what I actually need. You know, I don't want to, because too much distortion doesn't sound too great. But sometimes you need it, because you're playing for an hour and a half, or you're at the end of the show and you just need that extra push. Then I have the 4th channel set exactly the same as the 3rd one, with a bit more gain, and I can just click on it, and I can get through the show. You know, sometimes it's if a stage is not, sometimes you can't hear yourself too well, and it just gives you a little bit more comfort. You know, to have a little bit more saturation. I don't know. It does help. And so maybe we can listen to. Oh wait, never do this. Never do that. I have to put it on the right speaker. Hopefully I didn't break it. Wait. 3. All right. So now it's going through the aux. Okay, so we can. I'm gonna switch it to. This is with greenbacks, so you can hear the clean channel. A bit of a Fendery thing, and you can actually play through. I'm gonna show it to you with a Fendery cabinet. Okay, let's see. Check this out. This is kind of more like a basement thing. It's cool. And then if I move up 1, this is more of a basement thing. Nice, yeah. And then I can go up to more of a JTM thing, maybe do the neck pickup. That sound. Then you can move up to the JCM thing, so I can maybe switch to a different cabinet. It does have that 800 sound. And then there's the high gain channel. That's more gain that you'll ever need. But it is useful because if I have to play a whole show with this, then it gives me all the sound. So that's what I actually do. I take this out and I have the pedal board that has like 3 or 4 at the most sound channels, and I just use those. Usually a clean one and a bit of distortion, a crunch, and then my lead sound. Yeah. Then that sounds good. Yeah, I think you're talking about the Plexi. Yeah, this is actually a great sounding amp. So if you ever find one, I think they were discontinued a long time ago. So they went on for about 2 or 3 years, I think. Maybe a little more, but now Marshall has gone back to the regular 410, and this is pretty hard to find. So if you find one, it might be very expensive. But if you find one for cheap, definitely check it out before you get a regular 410, because I think this is a bit more classic sounding. It's a lot more, it's less compressed, it's a bit more spongy, it has a bit more response. It doesn't have as much gain, but I think it has plenty, more than you'll ever need. So it's a great amp. Okay, so these are my Marshalls, and then let's see, how long have we been going for? I can see it here. Let's see on YouTube. Well, it doesn't matter. If you guys are okay, we can keep going. So after these 4 amps, these are my 2 smaller amps. One is the orange Tiny Terror. I bought that a long time ago, many years ago, and I used it on Fill the Sky a little bit, and I used it on pretty much every other album. It's strange because orange has a pretty specific sound, but this amp actually sounds more like a Marshall. So I have enough Marshalls, but it does that JTM thing. Think of early AC/DC. It does it quite well, and he also has some really cool voxy. Well, not really, but some really cool chimey, clean sounds. Again, only one channel, so you have to play with the volume to get, and the gain to get different sounds, and you can't switch channels with it. So live, it's a bit limiting, so you would have to carry a distortion pedal, use that as clean, and then put the pedal into it. But I've never really done that. I will use it in the studio. I think it has an effects loop, but again, in the studio I don't really use it. So it's a good sounding amp, it's great. And for the smaller ones, it's quite expensive, but it's really great. It sounds great. And then there's the, can you see it? Yeah, the Paul Reed Smith. This is the newest amp that I got, and I wanted something modern, like a PV, 5150, or like a Mesa Boogie. But I didn't want to get into all these big amps because I only really use it for specific textures in songs. And so I bought that because I thought it would give me that. But it does that. But it also does great clean sounds. Because apparently Mark Tremonti, who's the guy who designed it with PRS, he really is into Fender Twins. And Fender Twins have this beautiful, huge headroom, clean sounds. And I thought, well, it won't sound the same. And it sounds incredible. It sounds incredible through either through a nice, bright, big speaker, or through my aux. I use some of the vintage speakers, and it sounds really, really good. I played it through the 75, which I think was designed for these, and it sounds great. A bit compressed, so when you move on to the V30s actually give it a little extra edge, and I find it very cool. I record that with, I tried recording. I haven't actually put it on a record because I bought it after Mystic Electric was released. But I tried that with the V30s and the 57, the Sennheiser. I'm blacking out. The 609. And what else? And the 421 together, and I got a really cool sound. And I think a Royer 121 would also work very well with the 57 because it's a bit, it's not as bright, so I think it would fill out the sound of the 57. But it sounds really good, and for cleans, it's incredible. So, yeah, a bit unexpected, right? For a high gain amp, incredible cleans. So these use, I think the orange uses EL84. Of course, all the Marshalls I have them set up as EL34s. And the PRS I think uses 6L6. I'm pretty sure. It's 6L, 6V6? I think it's 6L6. Yeah. So that's another one. Then on top of there, you see my Adrenalinn. Let me show it to you. If I can do this without breaking anything. Yeah, this is one of my favorite boxes. I used it to compose. It's a bit dusty. I composed many things with this. And it's a small, kind of an amp in a box with a bunch of effects. And it's designed by Linn, the guy who did the Linn drum. And the cool thing about it is that the effects are all, well, pretty much all of them, they are time-based. So it's all based on subdivisions of different, echoes. And it's really cool. And it has strange sounds. It has a kind of a ring modulator. It has all kinds of stuff. And I recorded a lot of demos with this when I was traveling. And actually I think that Originator, Things We Said, Sense of Time, a lot of songs from Feel the Sky were first demoed with this. I still have all the demos and these are the sounds. And then I started making a strange record, all based on weird guitar sounds. But then I abandoned it. And eventually kind of evolved into Lights and Shadows, because In Dreams and The Traveler kind of started like that with strange sounds, but then I decided to go rock for that record. And so I might use it again later, at a different time. Okay, so there's one more amp, and let me see if I can show it to you without breaking anything. Now, there's a bit of a delay. Let me see if you can see this. Yeah, so this is an incredible amplifier. This is called the CUB10. Are you guys still there? I hope I haven't been talking to myself and the stream is down. Okay, you're there, great. The Rockmans? Oh yeah, we'll get to the Rockmans. Oh yeah. So this is a Laney CUB10, extremely cheap. I bought this maybe for €100. It's all tube, and change the tubes first thing. These are 6V6s. Change those. And people sometimes change the speaker, but because I'm using it a lot through my aux, if I use it just to practice, I can use it with the speaker, I don't mind. And to record, I can just go through the aux. I'm gonna play it for you because it sounds really, really good. And it's a very simple design. I don't think it's based on anything specific, but this is the simple structure of Tweed amp, the early Tweed amps by Fender. And it sounds great, so I'm just gonna show it to you. I'm going to leave it warming up for just a few minutes. Let's see. This is number 7. The only problem I have with this amp is that I need to get some slow burn fuses, and I'm using the quick ones because they were all that I had, and sometimes it blows fuses. But it's fine. As soon as this virus thing is over, I'll be able to go to the store and get one. So let me show it to you. I hope you guys are not getting bored. You're all here. Thanks for letting me know. Tubes, pardon my lack of knowledge of such things. Does it use tubes, is what I mean. Yeah, well, there are two main designs for amplifiers, at least before the digital era. The first design, which is the classic one, is tubes. So you have, I don't have one here, but they're just little like bulbs, they're little light bulbs. And that's what they use to, for the power, to power the preamp and the power amp section. And they have a very distinctive sound. And that's what most people love about guitar amps, is the tubes. And then there's a different design which is not always bad. For example, what's a classic? Well, a classic, very classic solid state amp, which is solid state is kind of the opposite of tubes, so it's all down to transistors. And solid state amps, some of them are extremely famous, and one of them, maybe the most famous, might be the Roland JC120, which is a great clean sounding amp, and you heard it on thousands of records. And it's just different, but in general, tubes are considered superior. And then the third kind is the digital kind, which happened when the first pods started coming out, in the late 90s, I think it was. And now it has evolved greatly, and we have the XFX and we have the Kempers. That's a different thing. But if you want, for actual amplifiers, you have solid state or tubes. So if you don't know about that, research it before you buy an amp, because you know it's a big difference. So if you love your 70s rock music, then you should go tubes. Not boring. This is great. Well, thanks. Yeah. You know, I don't mind talking to you guys with a guitar in my hands, but this technical stuff drives me crazy. For example, have I plugged in my microphone? Yes, I actually have. Okay, so let me just tubes. Okay, tube amplification. And Randall uses transistors. Okay, well some of them at least do, right? Okay, so now I'm plugged into this amp here, the little cub. Let me just switch to a different cabinet. This is a $100 amp. Listen to the sound of this. It's incredible. Now we can do a bit of distortion. This is. Am I plugged into that? Yeah, it sounds so big. This is just the amp. Now, if you go too far with the distortion, it does get a little farty. It does compress a little bit, but here's what I like to do with this amp. I lower the gain so that it's pretty much clean. There's just a little bit of breakup. I hope you guys can hear it. And then I use this pedal, which is called, you can't see it from there, maybe you can. Yeah, it's the Soul Food by Electro Harmonics, which is the clone. And I like to use it with not a lot of distortion, but just a bit of extra volume, so that it breaks up the amp a little more. It sounds like you can eat the sound. And let me just, for kicks, I'm gonna put a big reverb on it. Okay, so. Now the reason it sounds also so good is that I'm using well, the recreation of the Jensen speaker. But check this out. And one more thing about, you were asking about the. Oh, that is art. Oh yeah, man. I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you from your picture. But yeah, so one big thing you'll notice between tube amps and transistor amps is that tube amps tend to be very responsive to touch and to dynamics. So if I play this amp softly, I'm full up with the guitar. You see, I can almost play clean chords. But look at this. I can get distortion just by hitting the strings harder. Now, if we, let me just lower this reverb, then we just for the kicks. Okay, so if I lower the volume of the guitar, I can go from this to this. So that's one big advantage of tube amps. And so this is the amp with the pedal. But you could hear before that it doesn't really need a pedal. It's incredible. So if you find one, just buy it. Buy it because there's also so little that can go wrong with it. Because if you open it up, which I don't suggest you do if you don't know what you're doing, but if you open it up, the circuit is like nothing. There's like 3 components, so it's really hard for it to break. And I like to do intimate melodies with this. I sometimes improvise. I like to just improvise for a few minutes, maybe hours sometimes. I spend hours just playing with this. It sounds really cool. And it's the Laney CUB10. You're getting 2 different sounds from one effect. I get it. Very good. Yeah. So yeah, and there's actually there's very much of an intermediate thing. Is, you know, as you move your volume up and down, you can get. Oh, by the way, let me just show it to you. with a pseudo. I'm not gonna get up to get my fenders because I'll destroy everything. Those of you who follow me know that I always end up with the camera on the floor. But this is a split coil, so it kind of approximates a Fender kind of sound, and you can get this. I don't know. It sounds great to me. This is with a split coil, so that's kind of what you will get with a Fender style guitar. All right. Cool. So I think that's it for as far as tube amps go. There's maybe one or two that are not here, but that's it. And then I have a couple of other things, which are my Kemper, which I won't be able to show you because I have to move. This happens when you do live things, right? When you do a live show, sometimes your amp blows up. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. It's never been so bad as today, though. I don't know what's going on. Actually, this never happened. But anyway, the Kemper I use, and then I use the Rockmans. And again, I won't turn the camera around, but the Rockmans, you can check them out. I did a couple of videos. With where I show my delays. This is a little module that the guy from Boston, Tom Schultz, did. And they sound really cool, different sound. Maybe we'll do it some other time because I have, it's more difficult to hook them up, and I won't touch the camera again today. But anyway, maybe we should leave now that we're playing with technical problems. I want to thank you all for being here. Again, sorry for the problems, but it shouldn't happen again because it never has. So hopefully this Saturday is 6:30 CET, that's European time, 12:30 if you're in New York, 9:30 a.m. if you are in Los Angeles, and then you kind of have to figure out your own time zone from there. I will see you on Saturday, all right? And we'll do a live session and a live masterclass, and I will teach you everything about the cage system, and it will be great for your guitar playing and for your scale learning, and I'll go quite deep. So prepare your questions. And again, I don't know what's going on with the connection, so we're gonna leave now that we're ahead, and I'm gonna leave this up on the channel. I know that it has a few problems, but maybe people will get a kick out of checking it out. Okay, so I appreciate for making this video. You're welcome. Thanks, Andre. Always learn something on your channel. Well, thanks, man. And DK, all right. Yeah, see you soon. So yeah, you all have a good time. Have a great weekend. A great week, and I'll see you this Saturday, and we'll learn some cool things. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.